Welcome to our February Training Tuesday for OU Campus. Today's topic is making the most for your images and videos. During the presentation, all participants will be in a listen-only mode as this session is being recorded. If you have a question during the presentation, please use the Q&A function found at the bottom of your screen. We will attempt to address your questions throughout the presentation. If there are any remaining questions we cannot answer during the webcast, we will provide you an answer via email. My name is Paul Warren. I'm one of the trainers here at Omni Update, and I'll be walking you through this Training Tuesday. As we can see, we'll go ahead and start here with a few brief PowerPoint slides. So the first thing comes up with questions is what image formats can be used. This was actually taken from our support site, but we can see that there are multiple types of images that can be used within our site. And I'll also show you where you can control what images can be uploaded into your site. So it is something you can control as well, so you don't end up with a bunch of images, image styles that you don't want to have in there. When it comes to video formats, if your MP4 is your most compatible, I actually went to our developers and said, which ones do we recommend? Pretty much the MP4 is your most compatible. The embedded link is what we're seeing more and more though, where you're pulling in things from social media and placing those on there. MP4, like I said, is the most compatible, but it doesn't mean that other ones won't work depending on the browser that your user is actually looking at it through. So just some information here. The other thing we'll talk about today is image sizes, original versus crop. Sometimes this gets a little confusing on which one do I want to use. When we're talking original, it's going to keep the same layout that we have of our image. So in this case here, where we would have a square of 100 by 100, if I say I have this bird image and I want to keep it as a landscape image, I would go ahead and use original with it. Now, what that allows me to do is when it fills in this box, it's going to go from the right edge to the left edge at 100 width, but then it's going to stop. And what you're going to have is just some blank space at the top here and the bottom here. So it's just letting you know, hey, when you do original, it's going to fit that image in here, but there's either going to be some blank space on the sides of it if it's a portrait image, or there's going to be some blank space at the top and bottom if it's a landscape image. If we use cropped, what it's going to do, it's going to continue to fill that box until the 100 by 100 is full. So we can see here in the bottom right-hand corner, we do have the same image. It's still in landscape format, but since we said cropped, we said we wanted to go ahead and fill up that 100 by 100 box. And at that point, there's some sections here, the blue sections that are off to the side that are actually extra. So with that extra, the system is going to go ahead and crop those off. So that way those will be removed and you will have an image that's 100 by 100. So it will go ahead and crop off those edges. Now the question one time came up, can you go ahead and select where it's going to crop, either more to the left or more to the right? You can't do that here. This is automatically going to go ahead and center the image, but you can go ahead and use some of the editing tools that we'll look at in OU Campus when it does come to cropping or resizing an image. So with that, let's go ahead and go into OU Campus and take a look around. Let me go ahead and change my screen here. Which one do I want? Let's go this one here. Once the training is complete, we will actually have this up on the support site, and you'll be able to find it under the Training Tuesday support informations. As we come in here, we do have some setup things that you can do as an administrator to control what types of changes can be made on images. So just kind of go over those. If we go in here to setup and go into sites, this is only available to your level 10 administrators. And if I go into sites here and go into more actions and edit my site, and come down to my WYSIWYG editor, I do have a couple of things here when it comes to disable image resizing. What this is disabling is where I can put an image on a page and I can go ahead and drag it to make it a different size. So when I disable image resizing, the little handles that are usually around an image go away and you can't resize it. So maybe you have a group of images and you want them to be placed on the pages at that specific size and you don't want them changed, you can go ahead and disable image resizing. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't go in and reformat the image and crop it and do the resizing through the editing tool. You can still do that, but once it's on the page, you can't go ahead and resize it on the page itself. You can also disable the alignment menu. Now, where this comes into play is, let me go ahead and change my screen. Actually, I want to stay on this screen. Let me go ahead and change my location here. If I come in here and I disable that alignment menu, I can come to content and let me go into my pages here. There we go. And I'm going to use a Training Tuesday. Go ahead and use an image page here. Actually, let me go ahead and remove this here. And if we come in here and I add an image, so I come in here, select my image, I can select the image that I want. Maybe I want Burgess Hall here, and we'll go ahead and insert it. When I go to my advanced, I can set my alignment here. So I can set it to the left, to the right, to the top, middle, anything like that. What that disable image alignment does is basically turns that part off. So I don't have that ability to align it. So if I come back in here to setup, I go to, whoops, I do want to go ahead and leave this page here. And I come back to my setup, my sites, come back into Galena here and go to that site setting. When I come down to my WYSIWYG editor and I say disable that alignment menu, I save that. So now when I go back to that page here, I can come in here, go to my Training Tuesday page here. And now when I add an image, you go ahead and select an image here. And I go to advanced, that alignment is turned off. So it's basically saying I don't have control of where I want this aligned. Now, what I can do though, is maybe I don't want to have my editors to worry about aligning things. I can go ahead and still create an alignment within my CSS and set that up. So what I can do, I'm going to go ahead and save this here. If it goes through. Come on. Oh, I know why it's not saving. If you don't have an alternate description here, you won't be able to save it. So you always need an alt description there. So we do have our picture here. Like I said, this does have those handles. So I can resize it directly on the page here. If I disable the image resizing, I wouldn't have these handles and it would just come in and be that page. There is a way that you can limit the options. And if I come in here and maybe I only want them to be able to put the image on the left or the right here. What I would do is I can actually, let me go ahead and save this page here. If I come to my content and pages and I go to my root directory under resources here, I can come into my CSS and go into my styles CSS. Now, if I come in here and I come down to, let me double check this section here, 250s. Here we go. I do have where I can have my images set up with that alignment. So I could say I want it to float on the left with a margin on the right of 10 pixels, or maybe I want it to float on the right with a margin on the left of 10 pixels to give me a little bit of a gutter there around the image. I can actually set this up in my CSS and add this to a dropdown. So when I go in and I'm putting this on the page, I can limit and say I only want it on the left or the right. So where that would come into play here is if I come back to my pages here and go back to that image. Oops, Training Tuesday here. And I come in here under my main content. I select that image. When I go to edit the image here, I can use my classes here. So I've created that class and I can just add it here to float to the left, or maybe I want it to float to the right, and then I can save it. So I'm only giving my editor those two options. They don't actually have all the other options that are there. Now, where I add it to that class, so if I come in here, I do have that class there. I forgot to make a note of that. Let me go ahead and save this real quick. Let me refresh my page here to hopefully get rid of that. There we go. To get that, add to the classes there, if I come back to my content pages and into my resources, into OU here, go into editor, I have a styles.txt file. So when I come into the style.txt here, these are those two items that I have. I have the float left, I put a tab, and then I put float left. I have a float right within the CSS. I can put float right and then go ahead and add float right here. So that way I don't have all of those options for my editors. I could do a float center, I could do any specific thing there and create it to the classes here and then add it to that style text. So this is where we're also getting our headers. We have our different colors if we want, so we can always add to this styles. .txt file there and pull up any styles from your CSS there. If we come back into our pages here, if you did want to edit an image, you can always come in. Let me go back to our Training Tuesday here and go into images. Oh, you're actually doing a tab. The question came up, why do only some of the options have a space after the CSS and some have tab? They actually all have tab. It was just the amount of space that was in front of it. So all of them are still tabbed there. So you put in the name, the tab, and then the name that you want for it. So if we come in here and I do have an image that I want to do, maybe I want to take this image of the deer here and make some changes to it. We do have some minor things. So even if I said when an image goes on a page, I don't want it to be, I don't want it to automatically be, or I don't want to give my editors the ability to go ahead and resize it on the page. I can still go ahead and take an image in here and I can resize it. So if I said I wanted to go ahead and change this, I can go ahead and come in here. Maybe I want to bring this down a little bit and hit resize. I also have preserve ratio on here. So if I did have a preserve ratio, if I wanted to change that, I can always turn this off and put in my custom numbers here. The question came up, is it best practice to have an image file for each directory rather than one image file for the whole site? I've had that question several times. What I'm really seeing out there is a 50-50. It really is up to you how you want to organize your images. For some schools we've seen, they want them broken down by that directory. So all of your athletics are within the athletics section within your, based off of your root site. Other ones, they'll have an images file and everything will go into that images file and be broken down into individual folders in there. So there really isn't the best way of doing it. It really is what's easiest for your editors. So it really depends on your relationship with the editors and how they want to go ahead and put those in there. I've got another question here. Give me a second to read through it. I'll have to come back, Phyllis. Let me give me a second here to come back to that. So you can resize here. You can preserve your ratio. You can also crop your images from here. So let's say we did bring in this image and I do want to make some custom crops to it. I can go ahead and select what I want cropped off and then go ahead and just resave this. So I can apply the crop here. If an item comes in sideways, so maybe it's something where you do have an image and was brought in from a phone or a camera and it comes in sideways, you do have a rotate here. So you can go ahead and rotate your images here. So once you have your image saved here, we do have down in the bottom right-hand corner, save or save as. So in this case here, if I just wanted this as a new image, I'm gonna go ahead and start using it, but I might need that original deer image at some point. I can go ahead and do it as a save as, and then I'm just gonna call this one cropped. So then we'll go ahead and save it here. Now, if I realized that I didn't need that full size image of the deer anymore, I could just go ahead and do it as save, and that would go ahead and replace that image. Now, if I did have an image, so I've got the image of the deer here, maybe that original image was on a couple of pages. It's our mascot. We've got it out there on a couple of pages. And I go in and I crop it and I save it. When I crop it and I save it, it will update those pages that it's on as well, because it's always looking for that image there. So it is something to kind of keep in mind. If you do have an image that's already out there and you crop it and save it, or you resize it and save it, it may change what's going on your pages as well. So you just want to be cautious with that. But then you can also do the save as also and save it as a new image here. Can we turn the feature off to your users? If you're talking about the editing images, not that I'm aware of. I'll have to go back and double check on that, Eloni, but I don't think so. I've never seen a setting where you can actually turn off the ability to go ahead and make changes or go ahead and do the editing on those. Go ahead and clear out some things here. Let me go ahead. Jeff, when it comes to your question about turning an inline style into a style class, I'm not really sure on that. I'm not fully up on the code itself, but let me go ahead and make a note of that, and then we will get back to you on that. And then for Matt, is there a way to undo the global resize of an image? Is there a way to undo a global resize of an image in case content editor makes a mistake? Not that I'm aware of that you would be able to go back and change that. You would have to know. I would just, make sure your editors are very careful if they do that, or if they make a change to an edit in here and they're changing that. Yeah, you might have to go back and see if your IT department would have a backup that you could go back to. But there is no way to undo that change once it's out there. Go ahead and close some things here. As we move on here, let me go ahead and see, can you set an image to be responsive to 50% of the width, but not go below 300 pixels? No. There's no way to go ahead and set a line up there like that, where you can go ahead and set that up within there for the 50% width of the page, but not go below. There's really nothing there that I'm aware of that you could do with that. Go ahead and move some things around here. As we move on here, if I do come into my content and pages, when I do want to add my image to a page, there's actually a couple of different ways I can do it. So if I do come to my images here and I come to a page here, as we can see, we do have it right from our toolbar. We do have an insert edit image. And then you can go ahead and take this image and put it where you want on your page. The other thing that you can do is there is an images gadget as well. So in this case here, if I come into my images gadget, I can see the site that it's looking at and the path that I'm currently looking at. So I'm currently looking at resources, images, campus. So if I come in here and I select a new location, and maybe I want it to be within the Training Tuesday folder, I can come in here, change it to Training Tuesday images, and I'm going to go ahead and look at school images and then do select. That will go ahead and update my images so I can see them right here without actually having to go anywhere. And then I can go ahead and just drag and drop those images here if I want. So I can go ahead and set a size here. Actually, I'm not going to set the size right now. I'm going to go ahead and put an alternate description here and save it. And then I can come in here and still go ahead and resize it as needed here. So it's an easy way that you can easily see your images with the gadget, and then go ahead and select those as well and just drag them over to your page where you want to put them. Once it's on the page here, now if I come in here, I do have my width and height listed here. So I could always come in here and make it a little bit bigger or a little bit smaller there. If I do come in here and need to upload some images, there's actually several different ways you can load images into your site. So if we come back to content pages here, actually we canceled this and saved this page for us here. So if I come back to content and pages and I go to my images, and maybe I want to load a couple of images here, I can do an upload. I can go ahead and add those files here. So if I come in here, go into pictures, go into my demo images here, and maybe I have a couple of images here that I want to go ahead and select, I can go ahead and click open, and that will go ahead and add those here. If I didn't need all the information and the name, I can go ahead and rename them at this point. So maybe I don't need the dimensions of it here. I can go ahead and take that off here and rename them if I want. If I realize there's one that I don't need, I can actually go ahead and remove that as well. If your image does not properly show, I would probably remove it and try to upload it again. I'm not quite sure why it wouldn't come in that way. It would just definitely be something that might be within that image that's causing that not to load correctly. But yeah, I would probably just go ahead and remove it and then go ahead and reload it there. Oh, if you don't have a image gadget, great question. Let me come back to that in just a second. So we do have our bridge here, and I'll go ahead and start upload. And then that way, that will go ahead and upload it into our folder here. Now, there's a couple of different ways that I can also do that though, is if I have my image folder open. So if I come in here, let me bring over a folder here and resize this just a little bit so we can see here. Maybe I have my images and I realize what I want to bring in. I can come into pictures here. I can come into my images and I can drag directly to this folder. So maybe I have these 3 images here. I can just drag them down here and I could see I can put them into an individual folder if I want, or I can just put them into this folder here. So I can easily drag and drop those in here and it will go ahead and bring those over. Now with that, I don't have the ability to go ahead and change the name on them while I'm doing them or edit them in any way, but it will just go ahead and bring those in for us. The question came up on the gadgets. If you don't have that gadget, let me come back here and we'll show you what you would do. So what I can do here is if I go into gadgets, actually, let me show you from a page itself. Come back in here, Training Tuesday. Go ahead and take an image here. So if I didn't have that gadget, actually, I need to be in the editable section here. If I didn't have this gadget, what I would do first is look at gadgets here by the little gear icon and see if you do have that gadget. So we can see here the gadgets that are available for me, and I can go ahead and select or deselect any gadgets here as I want to go ahead and do that. If the gadget is not showing here, you need to go to your add-ons and then go to the marketplace. Once you're in a marketplace here, you can come into categories and go to gadgets. And within your gadgets here, you can see additional gadgets that you might have. Now, I've gotten a lot of them here are showing installed. I think I probably have all of them installed here, but you would see some that you can actually go ahead and add if they haven't been installed yet. So you would go ahead and be able to see those there. At that point, you could go ahead and select it. It will then add it to your gear here, and then you can go ahead and add that gear right to your page there. And with the gadgets, they are person specific. So you can go ahead and select your gadgets here, and each individual user would have their gadgets available there. Do all images have to be JPEG files? No, they don't. If we actually go back to our PowerPoint real quick here, we can see that images, they can be bitmap, GIFs, a couple of different JPEGs, FVG, TIFFs as well. So you do have multiple formats there. Can you upload an image? Hold on one second here. Can you upload an image in PDF format? You could upload an image as a PDF format. You would do it exactly the same way. You would just go ahead and upload your images. Now you can control the types of images that are actually going into your folders. So if I come in here and I want to go into my images here and I want to limit what types of folders. So in this case here, we do have JPEGs, but maybe I realize there's other types of images I'm going to allow and certain ones I'm not going to allow. I can use my key icon here. And then when I come down here a little bit, I do have extensions. So I could say I want to disallow extensions. I want to make sure that nobody's putting PDFs into my images folder. So I can come in here and put in PDF. I could go ahead and put several different types. If I didn't want Word files, anything like that, we can go ahead and put that here. When I save this, actually, I want to do this recursively because I wanted anything within this folder as well. And then when I go ahead and save this, and I go to upload, it now tells me what the blocked extensions are. So if I have an editor that's going in there, it's going to say, here's the extensions that you can't use. If there's only ones that I am going to allow, I could do it the other way. I could say, maybe I want only TIFs and JPEGs. And I'll go ahead and save that. So now if I come in here and go to upload, oops, I forgot to change one more thing there. Come back in here. I want to say allow only these extensions and then go ahead and save that. So now if I upload, it's going to give me the allowed extensions. Which ones can you allow there? So it just gives me that opportunity there. It is just showing me that opportunity there where I do have those. I got a question. Images is selected in the gadgets, but not showing up in my sidebar. I'm not quite sure. What you should be able to do is, if I come in here, actually, let me go back to a page here. Go back to our Training Tuesday and image page here. Oops, want to go into main content. When I come in here, I do have the ability to select a new location. So if I wanted this to be somewhere else, I could go ahead and say, well, I can see I'm in Galena. I'm in the underscore resources images. Maybe I want to be in Galena. Instead of, I want to go be in the Training Tuesday images here, and I want to see banners. Or actually, let me go back a step here. And instead of banners, I want to go into my images here, and I want to see Paul's images. So it gives us this, and then I'm going to click select here. So that will go ahead and refresh my page. So now I can see images that are in that Paul's folder there. Let me double check. A couple of minor other things so that you can do images as well. So let me go ahead and close this. If we come in here and I go to a page, let me go ahead and save this page here. And we go ahead and mark up some questions here. When it comes to the most recommended images, what I usually see, I would probably say JPEG. Those are probably the most common ones out there. They're easy to maintain, and they're probably the most common type of images that are out there. My first thing there. Phyllis, I will come back to you. I'll probably need to do it afterwards. I do have your email, so I'm going to have to do some research into that and find out about that. If we do come in here and I go to my content pages, the other thing that you can do is you can actually take your images and move your images around once they're on the page. So maybe I've got my main content here and I realize, you know what, this image here, I actually want it up higher. I can go ahead and move this to where I want to go ahead and place it and go ahead and put it there. The other thing I can do here is for this image here, I put a red border around it. So you can also add color to borders. So where you would do that is if I come in here and I go into my image here, I go to the advanced tab, I can see I have my style here. So I can select what type of border style I want, and then I can add the border color in here. Now, what I'm doing, I'm not going to type it in here. I've been having problems with my browser is that when I start typing it in, it sometimes moves my cursor. So, but this is where you can actually see I do have the border color set to red here. So that's what's giving us that red border there. So if you had certain images and you wanted certain school colors around those images, you can actually go ahead and do that as well. As we move on a little bit here, go ahead and clear out some stuff here. As we move on to videos, a couple of things with videos. Like I said, MP4 is the most common that we know will work with the system, but we're seeing more and more, instead of putting the videos into OU Campus, you're actually seeing more and more schools linking to things. So if we come in here, and let me go ahead and save this page here. Oops, I didn't want to edit that. I just went back to where I was. So if we come back here into content and pages, some things that we can do here is when I do want to link to an external video. So let me go ahead and blank video page here. And maybe I do want to add a video in here. So I can come into my main content. Actually, before I do that, I need to grab the video information. So I'm going to come in here. I do have a video that I went into YouTube and said, I want to go ahead and share this. And I grabbed the code for it. So if I come in here and go back to my pages here, and I come into my content, and maybe I want this right at the top here, I do have on my menu bar a little insert media here. So with that embed code that I saved, I can come in here and paste this embed code in here within this. And then when I save it, it will go ahead and pops my video in here. Now, one of the things we can see when we do this, it doesn't have an alignment set up here. So what I can do is I can still add a style to this, an alignment style, similarly to what I had when I set up my images. But I actually need to add it to the code itself. So if I come in here, let me copy my text here that I need. And I'm going to come in here, I'm going to select my video here and go back to embed here. And what I want to do is I have some information here, and let me check my notes here. I'm going to put it right here. Is I've added my style equals float, and I want a margin on the right of 10 pixels. So I've just added that piece of code in there. So now when I save it, it will go ahead and bring up my information around it here. So it's actually put that in here for me. So by adding that style in there, it will go ahead and wrap that around. The other thing that I could do with a video like this, where I'm linking to it, is maybe this is something that I wanted to go ahead and autoplay. So let me go ahead and copy something here. If I go back into this video here, and I go back into my embed, right here after the code, so I've got the YouTube, I've got embed, and then I've got the YouTube code for it. Right after that 18 there, I'm going to put in a piece of code that is autoplay equals 1. It's basically saying, yes, go ahead and add this to the autoplay. So now when I save this and I go ahead and save this page, that will go up and that will go ahead and start the autoplay for me. So if I did have one that I want this, when the page comes up, I want this to start playing automatically, you can set it up by putting that code in there to autoplay there. So it is one of the things that you do have the ability to do. So I'm going to come in here and take this video out. Now, I've got a couple going on here. Let me go ahead and remove this. Oops, I didn't want to go there. Okay, here. Go into our content here. There we go. Took a little second. Will pasting styles into the video and code break the mobile display? You know, that's a good question. I don't know if it will or not. I haven't experimented with that. That would be something that we'd have to try there. I'm not quite sure if it will break that or not. If you, to do a rollover image, do you have the old edit interface, which I'm not finding in the new just edit? If you want the old editor, let me see if it's still available here. I know that was something that we used to have available. If I come in here, go back here. No, it doesn't look like it. Where we used to be able to get to it would be holding the Shift key when you're clicking on the green content editor, but it looks like they've actually done away with that editor altogether. So I'm sorry about that. It doesn't look like we have that available at all anymore. The other way that you can go ahead and put in video or items, let me go back here. Actually, this does come up with a different editor, so it's just slightly different here. It is giving you a full width. It's actually taking you out of the WYSIWYG editor and putting you into a full width editor. So that's what's there now. Is this? It looks very similar, but it is slightly different. The other way that you can go ahead and add a video here is if we come in here, let me come back to my content and pages for a second. And I have a user access MP4 video here. So I can come into a page and maybe I want to go ahead and add this video. And I want the video to be down here at the end here. I can use my video link here. And then for source, it would be the same thing that I would be getting in adding an image here. So if I come in here to add this, I can see here within Galena, within my Training Tuesday, February 2021, I do have user access set up on the MP4 here. Pardon me. And then we'll go ahead and insert this. So it does give us our dependency tag here. And it does go ahead and give us our code with it. And then I do have an advanced button here as well. What the alternative source URL would be is maybe I actually have this as an MP4 and a different format. And I just want to make sure that when other users are going in and using this, if it doesn't work in the MP4 format, I want to give them the option of another format, and we'll go to that other format. That's where I could use this alternative source URL. I could go ahead and put that in here. The other thing I have here is a media poster. Now, this will only be on images where you have them, or this will only be on videos where you actually have the video in OU Campus. So in this case here, maybe there is an image that I'd rather have than just the first screen of the video. I can come in here and select it. And maybe I want this West Campus image here. I can insert that and then go ahead and save it. So now when this comes in here and I save it here, we can see that we do have the West Campus image. And then when I press play, then it goes ahead and starts our video for us on the very first screen there. So it is something that can be done, but again, you can only use that where you do have the video itself in OU Campus. It's not, if you're linking to an outside video, it doesn't have that ability to do that. Sarah, I will go ahead and put that code, and then this recording will be online as well. YouTube video generated embed code. We have to remove the allow full screen or won't display the video. We get an error. Oh, that's interesting. I haven't heard that before. Okay. Let me go ahead and clear out some things here. Yeah, Michael, I understand having that feature to be able to do the hover over. In fact, I was kind of surprised when I found out that it was there. I thought it was a very cool idea. It's just because of the different toolbars or the different WYSIWYG toolbars that we're using there. Let me double check some stuff here. We did that. We talked about the image poster. Alternative source, we've got that. You can select, like right now, if we do come in here and I come into main contact, and let's say we were coming in and I want to add an image here. So when I go to select my image, it's automatically coming up Galena Resources Images. Well, maybe what I want to do, I wanted to go ahead and show, instead of that resources images folder, I wanted to go to the training images folder. So what I can actually do, I can actually go ahead and set that up with a different path there. Let me see if I have my note here on it. Do, 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 do. Okay, so I'm going to cancel here. And I want to go ahead and have this maybe go to my training folder instead. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. If I come into content and pages and I look at my root directory here, in underscore training, I have an images folder. And maybe that's where I want my images to come from. What I can do is I can go to the folder where I want that to happen. So if I come into my Training Tuesday and I want to go ahead and go to that training folder, images folder, I can come into my settings here. And if I scroll down to the bottom, we do have what we call our directory variables. So in my directory variables here, I can add a variable. And one of the new variables is what's the default image folder that I want this to go to. So if I'm in this file and I say, go in and look at an image, which one do I want to go ahead and do it to? So I'll go ahead and do a default image folder here. You also have a default media folder also. And then I can put in where that is. So it's in underscore training / images. So now when I save this here and I'm in this folder and maybe I go to an image here or a page here that I want to go ahead and add an image to. If I come in here and I select my image here, I go to source here, it's now going to that training images folder. So I don't need to figure out what path I want this to go to. If I have an athletics department and I want them to point to that athletics folder, whether it's in that folder or in a general folder somewhere else, I can actually go in and set that up for them. So it will go ahead and show that for them. So you can go ahead and change where that is. The other thing that we have now, something that came out last year or maybe 2019, it's all blurring together, is image size sets. So what image size sets are is you can actually create a set of images of specific sizes when you load them into the system. So a level 10 user can get to these. If I come into setup here, one of the things that we do have is image size sets. So it actually has two tabs on the left-hand side here. I've got sizes and size sets. So if I come into sizes here, I can see different sizes of the image that I want to go ahead and make. So I can have a small, medium, large, any size here. I can have the width and height of it listed here. And then I can also select that original or cropped. So I can come into each of these, maybe for this extra small one, instead of being original, I actually do want it a 50 by 50 image. So I could come in here and edit it, and I can actually change this to cropped now, and then go ahead and save it here. So now I do have that when at that size, I can go ahead and change these. When I'm creating one of these, I can just go ahead and do plus new. Maybe we're going to call this one Training Tuesday. I can put a small suffix with this. So this is actually going to go in the name of the file, so I know what size I'm actually working with. So I'm going to put a -TT. This one here, maybe just for fun, let's go ahead and say we're going to have this 450 by 450, and I want it to be a square. So I do want it to be cropped here. I'll go ahead and do create. So now we can see we have this Training Tuesday one here. So I can have as many of these sizes as I want to have. Now, what I can do with these, though, is when I go into size sets, I can create a set of these. I can use up to 5 of them at one point. Then I can also keep the original one as well. So in this case here, maybe I want to go ahead and take this Training Tuesday one that I have here. I just did new Training Tuesday. and I can select what sizes I want within it. So in this case here, I can see all the sizes that we have available to us. Our name is Training Tuesday. I said, yep, I do want to keep that original one in here as well, but maybe the different sizes I want, I do want that Training Tuesday size here. I've got a small one, I've got a large one. Maybe I want a really large one, a 3XL. Actually, I'm going to go 2XL. I can select up to 5 of these to create that. So I'm going to go ahead and save this here. So now I've got this image size set called Training Tuesday. The next thing I need to do with it is tell the system, where do I want this to work? What folder do I want this to be in? So if I come back to my content and my pages here, I'm in my Training Tuesday folder here, and I'm going to create a new folder. So I'm just going to do plus new and create new folder. It's not going to be for pages. It's only going to be for binary images that I have here. So I'm going to create a folder, and I'm going to call this Training Sets. So the reason that I'm adding the word sets on it would be for me, as well as any of my editors, to know, hey, if you put a file in here, you upload an image in here, it's going to make it more than one image. So what could happen if I just put in training images here, maybe an editor comes in and says, okay, I've got 10 images here, I'm going to put those in here. And if they don't realize that it's going to make that set of images, they're going to end up with all these images and try to figure out what's going on there. So that's why you want to give it a unique name. So in this case here, sets, or something just letting your editors know, hey, when you create this, this is going to create multiple items for you. I'll go ahead and hit create here. Oh, I forgot about, I was trying to use an uppercase character there. So let me come back in here. And go ahead and create this again. There we go. So now I have a regular folder, just works as any other folder, but I need to tell it this, when something goes into this folder, I want it to use that, image size set. So I'm going to go ahead and come over here to my More Actions button, go into Edit, Access. And one of the things that I have here is image size set. So right now there's no image size set with it, but I am going to go ahead and say, I want that Training Tuesday set here. So I'm going to go ahead and save this. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and do this recursively. So that way, if we have any other folders, it will go ahead and put that in there as well. And we'll go ahead and save that. So now that I have this training sets folder set up, and it's set up with that image size sets, if I come in here and go into the folder and I say I want to upload here, I'm going to upload files. Let me add a file here. So I've got a larger file here. Let's see, where is my, here we go. Here's a large file for image size sets. I'll go ahead and open it. And then I can go ahead and start my upload. So this will take just a little bit longer when it's uploading because it is resizing those additional images at the same time for us. So where you could use this is maybe you do have a couple of pages and you only want 1 or 2 sizes even when it comes to those images. You could say, hey, when you have the images from the last baseball game, put them into this folder and it will go ahead and resize those images to be perfect on your pages. So you already have those set up. So in this case here, we do have our image size sets images here. So it's created all of these for us. So I do have the original image here. So if I open up that original image, it is a monstrous image. So we can scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll. So we do have that, but I do have these other sizes as well. So within here, I do have a small one. So this one here, I said I did want it left as original there. We do have that is our small. We do have a large one here. So this gives us a larger image there. We do have our Training Tuesday one noted by the TT here. In this case here, I did say I want it cropped. So I do get that size set off here with that cropping there. And then we actually have a 2XL one here as well. And this one here was set as original. So with it being original here, it will go ahead and give us the full landscape image within that box there. So image size sets can be used for specific pages. I've seen them used for, if you do have a faculty directory, you can tell your faculty, hey, this is the folder that we want your images to go into, and they'll get resized. Now, when you're using an image size set, it will always make the images smaller, but it won't make it bigger. So let's say that original image that we had was 400 by 400, and one of my settings here for, let's say the 2XL is 800 by 800, it's not going to take that 400 by 400 image and make it bigger because we don't want it to pixelate there. So when you go in there, you would still see maybe a 2XL one at 800 by 800, but when you open it up, it's still just going to be that maximum size of 400 by 400. So that's why you have that there. It won't be expanding those any larger than what they already are there. Let me go over my notes here. And that is what we have for today's Training Tuesday. If we go ahead and look into the future, let me go ahead and switch my slides here real quick. And we come in here. Our next Training Tuesday, thank you. Let me go ahead and use my script that I have here. Thank you everyone for attending this. Recorded presentation and PowerPoint slides will be available on the support site. As we have here, our next Training Tuesday will be held on Tuesday, March 30th. It's going to be more kind of based on what we've been doing as a developer workshop, and this one will be focusing on implementing an interior HTML page. So with that, please don't forget to fill out the feedback survey. We love hearing from you. It helps us tailor our Training Tuesdays to what you want to see. Thank you everyone for attending. Have a great day. Stay safe out there, and I hope you have a great afternoon or evening. Thank you for your time. Lana, your question, if you're still on there, have you ever heard of a college using components exclusively for images? I haven't seen that at all. What I might recommend is, I don't know if it's in, there are two Training Tuesdays for components that were done out there. And it might be worthwhile taking a look at those and seeing. I know the second one that was done late last year, I think it was more focusing, or late in 2019, was more focusing on how we still have to, let me go ahead and start over again with that. With that, you want to go ahead and look at those. And I think the second one that was done was really focusing more on how schools are using components. There might be something within that when it comes to using components there and images there. Okay, with that, let me go ahead and cancel this out, finish up our recordings. Phyllis, I will go ahead and research your question there and go ahead and get back to you through your email. So hope you have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.